Okay, here we go. Hi, I'm Lisa Fowler from Mount Macedon Realty and welcome to Meet the Macedon Ranges. In 2007, my guest established her very own interior design company called acclaimed Coote&Co. She's renowned for high-end premium designs featured in very exclusive real estate in Melbourne, Sydney, Noosa and of course Mount Macedon. Please welcome Charlotte Coote. Hi, Charlotte.
Thank you. Hi, Lisa. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Charlotte, would you like to tell us what your connection is to the Macedon Ranges?
Sure. So my parents, Andrew and John Coote, they used to own Penrith, which is in Mount Macedon. And I think they owned Penrith from 1976 until 1981. And I was born in 1980. So Penrith is actually the address on my birth certificate. And next door at that time, there was Kevin O'Neill and John Graham that lived there. And they were their neighbours and they had lots and lots of fun together. I think Kevin and John owned that from maybe 1972 until 2001. Sadly, Kevin passed away in 1996. And Kevin was a very, very extraordinary florist and really, amazing shop in Toorak Road. And yeah, they were very clever. So I sort of always knew about this house and had memories of it. And, John Graham sold it in 2001 and it changed hands and, into another family. And then in 2017, Geordie and I were happily living in Melbourne with our 3 daughters. And I was going out for dinner with John Graham randomly. And as someone had said, Manani's for sale. And I said, do you think that it could be good for Geordie and I? And he said, to live? And I said, yes. So he said, could you let me show you around? And I was like, of course. So rather than, a stranger or whatever, he said, let me show you around. So we organised it with the owner and it was the most howling August day and it was sideways rain. And I think John was like, oh God, they're going to hate it. And the house was pretty run down. The house was pretty run down and the children were freezing and just complaining. And we were like, oh God, like, what are we doing? But I knew that in a month's time that the garden would awaken, that the birds and the flowers and the bees, and we needed to hurry up. And when we, got in the car to drive home and all the children fell asleep and we said goodbye to John, Jordan and I, just my husband, we knew there was something really special about it. And, it was this constant sound of the water running, and he grew up in country Tasmania and I grew up in country Ireland. And so the landscape of Mount Macedon was very familiar to us. So 2 weeks later, we owned it. And also hilariously, we kept ringing our friend Paul Bangay and John Graham saying, like, how many gardeners are we going to need for this house? This got 17 acres.
Low maintenance.
No, low maintenance, like maybe one gardener. But then as it got closer to us actually being the sort of winning bidders of this property, they were like, you're going to need full-time gardeners. And we were like, great, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
And so despite the weather, that didn't detract you?
No, it didn't. And I think we saw it on the worst day. I really do. And, but there's something
I suppose it was all uphill from there. Everything else was.
Yeah, it was just magical. And we were right because we came back and all the rhododendrons started coming out and all the birds and the beautiful garden, and it was just heaven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, yeah. And you were born there. So there was obviously some subconscious connection and for Geordie as well.
Yeah, I think so. So no, we've been very happy. We're sort of going into our 5th year now, next year, I think. So it's been a big project, both the interiors and also, the garden. And we've been so lucky to have had the guidance and direction from John Graham, he's our next door neighbour, and also Paul, who really was integral in establishing that garden with Kevin and John. All those years.
Well, all of those names are foundational names in gardening and landscaping and floristry.
Yeah.
So
we're very
you had the best.
I just wish they didn't put the wool over our eyes with how many kind of gardeners and help we were going to need.
No. Did you keep any of the existing gardeners?
Or
was it new?
We started fresh, which was good, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So tell us a bit about Manani and how you've renovated and styled the home. I
Well,
mean,
it was,
just give our listeners a little history
yeah, sure. So
on the
it
home.
was, I mean, it had been used, really it was built in 1890 for Sir Isaac Isaacs, who was the first Australian-born governor. And
Yeah.
he lived there, and then really it kind of, changed in and out of families and things. And then, it was used predominantly for weekend houses. I mean, they set these big hill stations up to, really fuel the Melbourne, with wood and it was like a respite from the heat from the summer months because it was so close to Melbourne. So, it was really then later on used, including by Kevin and John, for a weekend property. So by the time we got it, and then there was another family in between them and us. And so, we wanted to move in for a completely different reason. We were a young family, we were living there full time. And so we had to convert this house from being a very sort of quite dark weekend house to being a very, light and happy and friendly
family home.
home. And, it's been, I really don't believe in this idea of rolling interiors off the back of the truck and you're done. Like it's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing journey. And, I think it needs to keep evolving. And, certainly the two projects being the interior and the exterior, the garden, they both are such an ongoing story, I think.
Yeah, an evolving story, and particularly as your kids get older.
Yes, completely. So more recently, we converted the old, what was the old garage. It was a very beautiful building. We didn't touch the outside of it, but we just turned the inside of it into a beautiful kitchen, and there was no downstairs, powder room. So we've now got a powder room and proper sort of flower room. And so that's in last month's Bell magazine. And it's also my upcoming book as well. So that's quite nice, sort of having a little bit of underfloor heating in there as well in winter.
Yeah, good. Yeah, a few comforts. Not that it gets really cold in Mount Macedon. I won't talk about that.
On that though, so just on that note, I think that's one of the reasons I do love living in Mount Macedon, because you do get 4 precise seasons.
Yeah, very much so.
You get very beautiful summers, and you buy the pool and in the swimming pool, and then you also get a very real winter as well. And I mean, autumn.
Yeah, with the occasional dusting of snow.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Which is incredible to be so close to Melbourne. Yeah. So back to you personally, how did you become an interior designer?
Well, my father was a very famous interior designer, and, life growing up with Dad, in hindsight was pretty wacky, I guess. And he was sort of self-taught and very clever and photographic memory, and he was quite amazing. So we travelled overseas with him, and we went to Beverly Hills, and we ended up in an 18th century house in Ireland. And so there was this whole kind of traveling around the world, and he had incredible clients and things. So after coming back to Australia and going to school here, and I did a double degree in business and marketing, not in interior design, but I then went back to Ireland and worked for his interior design business. So it really was an incredible internship. And I kept saying to him, should I study interior design? And he said, no, I've taught you everything you need to know. Like, he really was very clever, and I'm very grateful for all that time and all of that learning, because, he was really, he had incredible projects, and I was really lucky. I worked on, English and Irish houses and castles, and, we worked on 2 boutique hotels, one in America and one in Northern Ireland. And my job was, I was the assistant. So, when he couldn't find something for his project, we would manufacture it. So that was,
right. So he taught you to be really resourceful.
Completely. And, and he was tough. He was really tough. But I think now that I've had my own business for 13 years or something like that, I'm constantly referencing back to that special time and all of that learning. But it's kind of funny to note that all of the girls that work in my interior designer office are way more educated in interior design than I am.
Yeah, well, but they didn't get the apprenticeship that you did.
No.
Did he give you your voice?
Pardon?
Did he give you your voice and your independence when you were young?
Yeah, I think so. I think, his idea about design was, it can't be boring. You've got to be authentic. It has to, you've got to collaborate with the clients, but also, bring something to the table that is not a trend or a fad, and that is timeless and does mean something, and it is, still going to mean something in 20 and 30 years' time. This idea of fast food and fast interiors and fast fashion, it's just the opposite of what I was taught.
What you were taught, yeah, that's right. And because it was taught to you by your father, someone you trusted, it's going to stick with you for life. That actually leads on to my next question. How much collaboration is there between you, the designer, and the client? Is it a case of you presenting a story and hoping they'll like it?
Well, again, like I said, going back to what I said earlier, it's this. It is a collaboration, and I think that each project needs to look different. I don't like this rolled out I don't like a rolled out anything. I don't like a rolled out event, a rolled out wedding. I don't like a rolled out, I just think people are interesting. And if I look at all the clients we've got on our books at the moment, each and every one of them are authentic and diverse and completely different. And I think that we need to help them as at Coote&Co, we need to help them, not make mistakes, and also bring to them things that they may not have seen, like beautiful textiles and lighting. I mean, that's what our job is. But at the end of the day, they're the ones making the selection, and they're the ones that, we really have become very good at the briefing stage and extracting that information out of them, that emotive phase at the beginning of the project that really goes in to inform the whole rest of the entire project.
So is that an interview? You sit down with them and
completely.
And
like we now have
a
really incredible. It's like a contract, I guess, but the first part of that is the brief, and we literally ask a set of very great, excellent questions that some of them seem a bit fluffy or whatever, but they're important. I think it's important to ask people about how they live their life, what they enjoy doing, their lifestyle, colours they like, colours they don't like. A lot of people don't like purple, which is hilarious. So, I think getting this information out, and I think they have this idea in their head of what they think they might like, but until you actually sit down with them and get that information, and then we go away and we actually type that up, we actually write it, and then we read it to them. We say, this is what we think the brief is. This is what we think that you want. And then
so you're not making the big faux pas. If you have a vegan client or something, you're not going to put zebra hides on the floor and wonder why they don't like it.
Yeah, totally. But that emotive thing, that emotional feeling about what someone wants to feel.
It's a massive. You've got actually a massive responsibility, because what you put in their home is going to forms the environment for them living their life.
Yeah, whether they're going to be
children
or not, or where all of their happy, moments are going to be spent and enjoyed. Yeah.
Okay, so in addition to engaging your services on a personal level, I believe there's a book in the pipeline.
Yes, there is.
Where people can learn about your style. Tell us about that.
So I've never written a book before, so I'm kind of nervous about it, but it comes out in April. It's called Colour is Home. And it's a coffee table book. And I was very lucky to sign a book deal with Thames and Hudson last year. And it will come out in April, and it goes to America and the UK and New Zealand and Australia. And
Beautiful. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Very exciting. So that's just in time for Easter present.
Yes. Yeah, and Mother's Day.
Yeah. Ah, yes, indeed. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's actually going to be a nice mood lifter after COVID. Hopefully we're all out.
Yes, completely.
Shopping for fabrics. I'm just going to go through. Yeah, exactly. A few of these questions. Hi to John Formosa. You have to love that underfloor heating, Caroline has said, to keep us warm. Yeah, exactly. Once you get the heating right, you're all.
It's that feeling of barefoot on the stone. It's warm. And
exactly.
All these timing things that you can do. It's kind of amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Charlotte Alex is asking, Charlotte, what has been one of your favourite projects?
One of my favourite projects is one I've done in Mount Macedon, and I don't think the client will mind me saying that it was Durrell. So Durrell burnt down to the ground and was rebuilt, and architect Stephen Akehurst, very clever, and built a Mount Gisborne home. So John Connors, who I've worked with now on a couple of other projects, same with Stephen Akehurst. And it was just really special because it was this really fabulous family that put trust and allowed this collaboration to happen with all three parties, being them with the builder, them with the architect, them with us, the designer. And we also understood how much history there'd been there for them.
That's right, yeah.
House had burnt down to the ground, and the only thing that was left was this door knocker that they found in the ashes, and that was it. So really the whole thing was rebuilt. You know, Stephen did a phenomenal job, and it was rebuilt on the original footprint, exactly the same house essentially, but it had that underfloor heating.
Which is a massive risk because it was such a beautiful home.
So yeah, we it was big responsibility for us, and you know, I think I presented to 14 family members the presentation of, you know, and we had to split it into two, and they were just incredible. They were decisive, and they were excited, and they trusted and collaborated. And there's a saying in our industry that the nicest and best clients get the best houses, you know. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you all jump in.
Yeah, and there was, you know,
one pond and work together.
Yeah. So, and, you know, Eve McKinnon, she was just, you know, extraordinary. So she really drove the whole thing. She was really impressive. And she's, you know, she's great. So that's probably definitely up there. It was really special, yeah.
Amazing. Maddie is asking, what has been one of your biggest struggles with a client when it comes to styling and designing a space? Good question.
You know, every single project's completely different, and I think every single project we sit down at the end and we say, okay, what could we at Coote&Co and our staff, like, what could we have done better? You know, every single thing, and there's always something. And I don't think that process will ever stop. I don't think we're ever going to get to a stage where we say we're the kingpins and we've got all the answers. You know, every single project is different, and they all throw up different things. But, you know, I guess we just work through them, and you've just got to have a great attitude and, you know, just
and be prepared to adapt and modify.
That's it. That's exactly right. There's this, you know, you go back to the drawing board. I mean, I expect that from clients. We know that we're not going to, we expect that every time when we present that we'll probably get 80% of it right. And then the other 20% will go back to the drawing board and go, okay, is it something a little bit like this or something a bit like that, or give me some more information, and we just
do it again until you do get it right.
Yep. So usually the second or third time we get there. And it's just trial and error, and you know, and it's also on all of those mistakes and learnings that we have. Every single client that we get, we know that they're not going to experience that. We can stop all of the mistakes for them, and we can steer them on the right path. We can show them fabulous things that they're probably not going to even know about in the textile world
until you present it.
Yeah, and they go, "Wow, this is amazing! I would never thought of this."
The important thing there is not to be presumptuous and assume you're going to nail it
completely
at the first crack. You know?
Completely. In fact, we expect now that we won't. We put enormous amounts of effort into these concepts that we you know, hours and hours and hours of work go into it. But we go into it expecting that we're going to have to go back to the drawing board on a couple of things, and we say that to them. And I think that people are relieved. I think they're relieved when they go,
that's right. It's always nice to have something to diffuse the situation, you know, some excuse to go, well, actually, I'm not liking that so much. Can we alter that? Yeah.
Totally.
Lovely little comment here, someone you might be familiar with, from Riddles Creek Nursery. Very proud of my clever, passionate, fantastic wife tonight. She's the best at what she does, on top of being an incredible mother and wife.
Wow.
Way to go, Geordie.
I'm going to have to give you a plug now,
Brownie
George,
points.
why I love
Hey,
the Macedon Ranges, aren't I?
exactly, Riddles Creek Nursery. Here we come.
Hilarious.
Brilliant story and great segment, says John Formosa. Thank you very much for watching, John. And Maddie said good answer to that question she posed before.
Thank you.
Leading on to that, let's talk about the Macedon Ranges,
Yeah.
Charlotte.
Good. So,
Brilliant
I'm
designer,
excited.
and you've chosen to live here. Tell us about some of your favourite places.
I think personally, this is, I've written a couple of little notes down here, but it's something I'm passionate about. And I do love the Macedon Ranges. And I think personally, I love, sometimes it's the simplest things like walking a dog. I love hiking. I love the fresh air. I love the feeling of stepping out of my car after a busy day at my design studio in Melbourne and just breathing that fresh air and hearing the silence and the water and just the creek, and it's just beautiful. We've got an amazing community of friends and the diverse people. Like in Melbourne, I felt like maybe we didn't have that as much, and it's so interesting here. There's a lot of different creative people, young and old, and I've really personally enjoyed, establishing and becoming part of that community. Yeah. I think it's been wonderful. Obviously the garden and, for our children, I think it's been amazing. But also, I just want to go into the sort of more lifestyle-y ones. And yes, the Riddles Creek Nursery. So I'm just going to list a little bit. So Geordie has done an amazing job. We bought that nursery 2 years ago, but
which, for those that don't know, is Charlotte's husband.
My husband, that's heckling, apparently.
Yes.
Thanks, George.
Best husband in the world, Geordie.
Yes. So, but I can't take any credit for, the incredible turnaround that he has done with that nursery. And, it's so fun and festive. He has food trucks that come on the weekend. So they have like OMG donuts. And then he has the next weekend, he's got, I don't know, like some vegan truck, and then the following weekend. So it's always something going on. There's 6 or 7 acres, and he's got all these fabulous plants and giftware and books, and his staff are amazing, and, they're doing a great job with all their social media. So, yeah, I'm really proud of him. Another nursery that I think is, and different, but, rare plants, so Stephen Ryan's
yes, of course.
nursery, he's really incredible as well. So that is amazing. I also, talking about a couple of the sort of restaurants and things, lots of different levels, but in Mount Macedon, obviously the Trading Post. So I think, is such a quintessential, all the pies and cakes, and it's just beautiful. And Brad and Claire do an amazing job. We go to Mount Macedon Winery quite a bit.
Yes.
So we love going there just on a weekend for lunch. We've recently been going to Baringo, to the pub part. That's just changed hands recently, and fabulous to go there, with the kids and things. We love that. We also in Woodend, I love Kuzu Izakaya, which I think, with Gareth, he's hilarious, and you go there for your birthday, and there's, they bring out sort of trumpets and things. It's hilarious and festive, but it's really world-class Japanese food. Like, it's fabulous.
It is,
So
very
delicious.
to have that.
And Kyneton, so Piper Street is amazing. So Midnight Starling with the lovely Daniel there. Spaghetti Bar, Major Tom's opposite. Bookshing, which I've heard's changed hands recently, and I haven't been recently, but I'm hearing really good things about that.
Yeah, doing well.
What else? There's up above, the George there, Botanic for a drink is really great for cocktails. Miss M's, Animus Gin. So that's all down Piper Street. And
it's absolutely incredible, those last couple of you mentioned that have just come on board in the last few years.
Yeah, Miss M's.
And good on them for struggling on through this period. But when we come out, they are going to go crackerjack.
They will. I also love Trentham. So Annie Smithers, Dufermia, she's just incredible. I mean, Annie's become a buddy of ours, and she came over for dinner. And
intimidating.
I made Geordie cook dinner. I was like,
oh, good. Yeah, again, defer the responsibility.
I just anyway, so he was thrilled because she went back for seconds. And so he was so excited that she liked it. Yeah. So it was quite sweet. What else? A couple of shops in Piper Street. I love Alex Mueller's shop and Little Oak Lane down the end. I bought little Georgian bowls and things there. which I love, and Lauriston Press is good. People also ask about, like, clients and friends and things ask where do they stay. I've got 3 here that I've written. So Bollerbeck, so Bridget and Hugh are friends of mine, and they've got their little cottage, which I think is beautiful. Paul Bangay's Stonefield's B&B, fabulous.
Yeah.
And another friend of ours, Will Jones, so the old Kyneton Rectory. And, you know, which is actually designed by my friend. Yes, they really do. They've been doing a great job. So that was actually, the interiors were done by my friend Adelaide Bragg. Also farmers markets. So I really hate going to the supermarket. I just, like, my husband made me sort of go into Aldi the other day, and, you know, I just had a panic attack with all those lights and
noise and
just
shelves. Yeah.
Oh. So I love the farmers markets, and, you know, I think they rotate every weekend. You know, so you've got Woodend, then it's Kyneton, I think, then Riddles Creek and Lancefield or something. Yeah, the Lancefield one's particularly good, and that's amazing, you know.
That's on a Saturday.
Produce. Yes, really great. So that's probably, you know, all of the things that I love.
So and that's a lot. So for our little population, we've got an incredible depth of food and artists and also, you know, lots of the natural destinations, the hiking and waterfalls and all that sort of stuff. So so lots of it, we pack a big punch for a small region.
And, you know, for me, it's 50 minutes for me to jump in the car and drive to my interior design studio.
Exactly. So you drive in how many days a week, or in good times? How many?
It sort of depends what is going on, but, you know, 4 days a week. And I find that 50 minutes heavenly. Like, I love sitting in the car and listening to a podcast or music and, you know, really just sort of.
That's right. And it's time to prepare for your day, driving in, preparing, and then on the way home you debrief and get ready to face the music when they open the door to the kids. Kelly Taylor has asked, who do you love to follow on Instagram in the Macedon Ranges?
In the Macedon Ranges, obviously the Riddles Creek Nursery. I do think the old Kyneton Rectory. I do think Will Jones does a really good job with his. I think they do a really great job. Obviously Stonefields, Paul Bangay does an amazing job. Bollerbeck is great.
This is one of those questions that when we hang up, all these names are going to drop into your head.
Of course. I'll think of some more.
Yeah. But anyway, there's a lot, and that's the thing with Instagram too. Type in #Macedon Ranges, and they'll all pop up in front of you.
That's right.
Wonderful things. Your husband's giving you lots of trouble. He said he never sent you to Aldi, and he said that's an outrageous statement. So you can take that up with him. Let's not deal with your domestic issues.
I'm never going back to Aldi, so just FYI. You can go back to
Aldi. That's okay.
You can go back to Aldi, Jordan, get your, your 5-for-1s and all those things that I clearly don't enjoy.
Exactly. If it's not from the farmer's market, we're not having it, Geordie. That's it.
Completely.
Okay, so would you believe we are already up to our 30 minutes? So I would like to thank you, Charlotte, very much for joining us and sharing your amazing story. Everyone, look forward to Charlotte's book.
Thank you.
Coming out in April. And the other thing is, talking about Instagram pages, Charlotte has the best Instagram page. So
thank you.
Check that one out, and a beautiful website too. So if anyone wants to engage some pretty stunning interior design, look up Coote&Co. So again, enjoy the rest of the school holidays.
I will.
School's back on Monday, which is great. And thanks to everyone for watching. Hang on, a couple of little comments. Oh, Geordie's still on. You can take that up with him. Justina Tompkinson from Barnhome Designs has said so many good tips on great places to go.
Good.
Macedon Ranges. Thank you, Justina. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining in, and I hope you learnt a lot about Charlotte
Thank you for having
Coote&Co
me.
and the Macedon Ranges. See you all soon. Bye for now. See you,
Thanks,
Charlotte.
Lisa. See you.
Bye.